Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another coloring adventure with CLAldridgeArt. Actually, this is part 3 of our free image color along. This is a free sample page from my book, 40 Fan Favorites, which was newly released. And this is what it looks like. And inside this book, there are images, 5 images, the top selling images from each of the first 8 books that I've released. So if you are new to my work and are looking for a great place to start, this is a high recommend because it has the fan favorite 5 of the top 10 fan favorite drawings from each of my first 8 books. This is volume 1. The other 5, for the total of 10, are going to be in the next book. So 8 books times 10 each is 80 drawings, and the fan favorites volumes are volumes 1 and 2. Each will have 40. You get it. I know you do. And that is just an example of my silliness. For those of you who do know me, my name is Christine Aldridge, and I am CLAldridgeArt. I do draw coloring books and make art for my living. I do hope that you will like what you see here, and that if you do, that you will subscribe to my channel, ring that bell so that you never miss a video that I make. You can also follow me on social media. I am CLAldridgeArt everywhere. That is the name of my Etsy shop as well. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find me on Google and any one of a number of other Pinterest, any one of a number of other places, always as CLAldridgeArt. I did get my program to do a nifty cool thing, which I'm going to pull up on the screen. Shows you the book that we're working in. I left it's a live shot, so you can see that, and color along color palette, and that will basically be the thumbnail. I'm going to switch you back up to the live shot. So what we are doing is we are coloring with a limited color palette. Now this image is a free sample page that I have provided for you. There are links to where you can get your own down in the description below. It's actually in a album on my Facebook page. But even if you're not active on Facebook, you should still be able to access it through the link that I just showed. Now the other thing is if while you're there you wanted to drop a like on the page, that would be wonderful. Not required, but absolutely wonderful. There are about 3,100 or 3,500 fans there. And then I also have a Facebook coloring group called CLAldridges Coloring in Bloom. And that also, there's a link to it if you scroll down in my description. There are also other links down there. And there's also a perpetual link to one of my favorite things that lives on my desk, and that is my magnification ball, so that you can see cool things that I want to show you that maybe I can't get close enough on. I use it for the fine print on my bills, but so that I can actually read contracts and things like that. But but I can also use it for the channel by saying, ooh, look at that pretty pearl, and you can see it close up through that. And exactly how I did it. I can also zoom you down, and that is what I intend to do. Now the color palette that we are using are pinks, mustards, and olives. And these are the colors that I chose. Now I happen to be using the wonderfully budget-friendly Deli Starjoy pencils. Now these are I'm told very polychromos-esque. They look like polychromos. They color beautifully. They are well pigmented. They are oil-based, soft core, and they sharpen beautifully, fully coated. They feel great. Quality pencil, hardwood, um, and they are just terrific. And the colors that I chose, I did go ahead and put the numbers in, and so I've always put that up for anybody that has this set. There's a link to these pencils also down below, and when I say budget priced, I mean that a beautiful tin of 72 pencils, and this is the tin that they come in, and it is a little stubborn to open, but it's hinged, and I love that. And so you can see they are definitely, they have the ooh and the ah factor. 72 pencils, under $30, guys, under $30 for this beautiful set of pencils. Now I got those from I got this set from Rose Rambo, who was having a bit of a clear out when her husband bought her polychromos a couple years ago, and so she shared these with me, and before that they were her go-to pencils. So and she loved them. So I do strongly recommend Vitruvian Art here on YouTube. She is absolutely marvelous for learning to color gemstones from. And this is, of course, my other book, in addition to 40 Fan Favorites. And this one is The Best of CLAldridge Mandalas. And my mandala book has turned out, it was my 11th book, I think, that I released, because there's a couple travel size books, but who knew? Mandalas, and people love this book, and I love that they love it. These are a few that I've completed. We did some streams with them. This is the most recent one that I did, which was called Brown as a Color 2, and I did this with CLAlridgeArt markers. This one is Prismacolor pencils, and this one is CLAlridgeArt markers first try, and then I also used Zier glitter paints on this as well. So, and then this one I did with, I believe I did this with the delis, with this set of pencils. And it was the rose gold and cranberry adventure that we did. So I am color palette challenged, as are a lot of people. I do draw in black and white, so the challenge for me is always knowing what colors go well together. Since I started coloring my work, I have studied a lot of colorists who know much more about color theory than I do. And one of the color palettes that I've seen work really well is the pink, the gold, and the olive. So that is what I chose for this challenge. We have done the first two parts. There are two parts. The first part, I did the olivine gemstones and the gold frame on the outside. So all of it's intended to look a little bit like antique gold metal. And then the second part, we did this center flower and the little green leaves. And then also, at the last minute, I decided to fill in. These were just empty fretwork spaces. And I decided to fill those in with I wanted it to look like rose quartz originally, but as it turned out, it was a little too pink, and the gold didn't look right in there. But when I mixed the two, when I used this lightest gold pencil and just put a little bit of color into the pinkest, the lightest part of the pink on this, it really popped it. And so I went all the way around and did all of the gemstones that way, and I just love the effect. I love that sort of tequila sunrise feeling. You know, that is the way that it feels to me, like a tequila sunrise. Zoom down just a tiny bit, and ooh, you want to see it up close and personal. That is really what I did. Yeah, see, I never would have thought of using this for this purpose. I'm going to move it over here, see if I can't get rid of that, a little bit of the glare. So you can see that, now I try to use the natural white space in the paper for my highlights rather than going in and using Posca or any kind of white paint, that kind of thing. Okay, enough of that. Be like I was, I received a marvelous gift of some glitter paints and did a impromptu live stream yesterday. And I still, people will laugh, but I still have the water here because if you put the light just right and you stir it with something, of course you probably can't see it now, but it's got this gorgeous patterns that go in with the glitter water, and I'm gonna have to throw it out because it's, you know, it's gray from all the different colors that were in it, but but anyway, yes, shiny objects fascinate me. Okay, so moving right along, we wanted to do the next part, which was to my eye, the next part needs to be these flowers, and I want to make them a little different than I did down here. So I think now what I've done with each of these color families is I have chosen a light, a dark, and a medium, and then a really dark contrast color. And so that is the contrast color, and I use that sort of sparingly. Just like here in the center, see, I only use that darkest contrast, the darkest pink in my hand. I used it here on the inside of this flower, and then just a little bit here along the outside. And that was really just to give it some definition, make it stand out from the lighter pink. And so the first thing I'm going to do is take that out of my hand. So now I've just got my light, my medium. I always go this way. Light, medium. Oops. Get it right, Christine. Light, medium, and dark. There we go. So I'm going to start with the dark. And I'm going to experiment a little bit. And I am going to just do the very outside of these petals. Now I did this in just this way. I don't remember what book it was that I did it in, but it was a recent video, and it was a nice effect, and I just used the white on the page. Don't be afraid to use the white of your page, because white is a color too, just like brown is a color. Make sure that I've got my hand out of the shot. So you don't have to cover every millimeter of your page. You can utilize and use the white space. And so that is what I want to try and do with this and see what it gives us. And you can also then, if you need to color, if you feel like you need to cover, every part of the page with some crayon or colored pencil or marker or whatever it is you're using, then you can use a lighter shade or a lighter color on those white spaces. Like oftentimes, if I've got a space that I don't like, maybe it's glaring a little too white, I'll go ahead and use a cream color pencil and sort of make it creamy, and it satisfies the need to cover up the space without necessarily losing the lightness. And this is just a first layer. Now I am going at this with a medium pressure, and I'm using a flicking stroke toward the center. And that way you can raise your pencil up as you are coloring it. You can raise your pencil up and get a nice little feather out on the edge. So I like the way that looks. I'll probably be working with the darker pink as well, but let's see what we can do on the next one. And I might even bring a little bit of the gold into that center. We'll have to wait and see. This could use a bit of a sharpen. So, and these pencils, I use my Prismacolor sharpener. As you can have seen in part 2, it doesn't always work perfectly. And so in part 2 I had this pencil broke, and I showed you how I fix pencils when the tip is broken off way down. The tip broke off way down here inside the wood. So in resharpening it, I ended up using a combination of 2 sharpeners, 3 actually if you count the fact that I used the M&R small hole and the large hole to remove the wood, the excess wood, get it down to the lead, and then I did a final sharpen with a cleaned Prismacolor pen or sharpener. And everybody has their own method of sharpening, and everybody has their own, their favorite sharpener. Sharpeners are like, sharpeners work differently with different pencils, and just like you need to match the pencil or the medium that you're using to the paper that you're working on, it's important to match the sharpener and the method of sharpening to the pencils that you're using, because they're not all the same. What works well to color, or to sharpen a hard leaded pencil might not work as well on a soft core pencil, and vice versa. And of course, there are sharpeners that are very sensitive to debris that gets inside them, and so you need to watch out for that. One of the issues that I have with the Prismacolor sharpener is that it's kind of dark, and if it starts to get a little full, and maybe you've got the pencil in there and a little bit of a wood shaving gets caught up in the spin as you're spinning your pencil, it'll pull it in there, and it'll actually cause your point to break off, because it stops the spin, and it torques the lead, and that is in fact a function of torque, just like breaking the axle on a car. So I just want to see how this looks, so maybe I'll just hush and color. Oh, That sounds like a good ASMR. Yeah, ASMR. Sensory something something. Yes. Sensory something response. Yeah, I'll get it. It'll come to me. So how is everybody? Are you enjoying this color along? And if you are, please do put a thumbs up and a comment. Please feel free to comment. Is there something that I do that is annoying on coloring along? Are they too fast, too slow? I've seen, like, I know that Sammy and Belinda, they do theirs over the course of a month sometimes. And, but then again, I've seen other people do a color along and it's just, you know, sort of one video right after the other, and they manage to do it in a few days. So tell me what you like about color along videos or what you don't like. I've got this structured so that you can do it on your own, you know, in your own time. You don't have to, you know, there's no time clock on it, and the videos and the drawing will be there basically in perpetuity. So if you stumble across this video 2 months from now, it'll still be there and you can still color along with it. I can't promise that, you know, that it'll be there forever, but it'll be there for a good long while if you know, if everybody does not share the, you know, share the freebie. Send them to my page, please. Don't share your own. Send them to my page. So that they can get their own and check it out and see what's in there. And I hope that while you're there, you will consider following a link or two into my Etsy shop. Maybe check out the other art that I have. All of my books are there in PDF form, as well as, of course, in print at Amazon. And there's links and everything in there. There are walkthrough videos, flip-through videos of all of my books here in a playlist. And there's lots of examples of people coloring them in my group, and also whenever somebody does it here on YouTube, I try and link that video in a features CLAldridgeArt playlist as well. So, okay. So I like that. I like the way that that looks. And so let's do these other two. I figured I'd try and do this whole top portion, including the butterfly, in this section, and then we do the bottom section on our own time, and then make part 4 the background. And hopefully that will work. But we shall see. I'm just really liking the way that this one turned out. I am going to run down a very quick rabbit trail and show you guys something that I did yesterday. Yesterday I did an impromptu video because I had received a wonderful Happy Mail, and I swatched the Arteza or Arteza, whichever school of pronunciation you are from, and someday I'm going to check with them and find out how it's actually pronounced. And then I had been trying to color Tatiana Bogima Stolova drawing from her book Vintage Classics 2 as a guest artist spot for a couple of months now. I finally was able to start coloring on it, and I thought I was doing pretty good. And then when I turned off the camera and continued to color on it after yesterday's impromptu, it just went 25 kinds of wrong, and I wrestled with it and wrestled with it and wrestled with it until I finally gave up, threw in the towel, and said, you know what? It's a PDF. Because I love her books so much that I do buy the PDF versions of them so that I can print them on my own paper and color them more than once. And so, for those who saw how promising the dragonfly or dragon bird looked when I left yesterday, I had started it, and it looked somewhat like this one, but it was all the blues were already done, and then I went way wrong with it. And I took it here, and I couldn't bring it back. There was just nothing I could do. I kept trying and kept trying. I kept fighting through it, and I just couldn't bring it back. I tried darkening things, making the red was just uninspired, but I liked the way the leaves were coming out, and so I'm going to keep that. But I have in fact restarted it again, and I'm liking. I'm just going. This one is just going to be the blues and the greens all the way. No red is going in there. It's just going to be the various shades. Now I'm doing this with CLAart markers. The version that I saw that I really liked was colored by Jackie, Jaki. Some of you know her from Facebook and other social media. I don't know her last name, but she did a version of this that's just stunning. But she did it obviously with colored pencils. Just a beautiful execution, and I'm trying to do it with CLAart markers, which are alcohol markers. So it's an entirely different medium, and so I had to start over because I was not going to be able to live with that. So rabbit trail, as Dee Dee would say, that's a rabbit trail. And I just have to laugh at myself because I just took it so far wrong, and it just wouldn't come back. It would not come back under control. Okay, now I've got my 4 greens. Now you say, but that's those are weird, Christine. How are those greens? Because that's a brown, clearly. The explanation is that this particular set of pencils does not have a really good light olive. And so in order to get a halfway decent light olive green, what I did was I took this kind of pretty spring green and then used the gray, a neutral gray, light gray on top of it, which gave it a little bit more olive tone. So I don't really need the gray, and the brown is a contrast color. So brown can always be a good contrast to grays, but I really only need these 3 pencils. And remember how I was sort of dithering as to, well, if you saw part 2, I was sort of dithering as to what color to make these stems and the little doohickeys out here. And originally I wanted to make them brown and then golds, and it didn't, nothing really lent itself. I finally just bent and made them green. Well, it's a good thing I did, because look, I added I did the same kind of leaves out here. And of course, they're also green, which is where they would be green. So that was just obviously a little bit of the universe looking out for me that I colored those green because I wasn't paying any attention. Now, part of the issue on this is this, you can feel it when there is a pencil that the Prismacolor sharpener does not like, you can feel it. And you can't really sharpen this in the M&R because the M&R, well, it's like there's nothing on the tip that's coming out because the M&R this is a slightly wider pencil. It's fatter around than a typical pencil. So you end up using this, and I use it very, very gently to just sort of shave off anything that prevents it from being smooth. And it's okay as long as I don't rub this on my page. I can brush it off down there in my trash can. Let me take a quick pause for a heat up of my coffee. I'll be right back. Okay, that is much better, and it's easier to talk when I've got hot coffee. Okay, so I'm going to start with the light shades first. So I'm going to just do the little stems of these and the leaves. These are the round leaves. I'm going to do the others in the olive greens. But these ones, I'm going to do just like I did the ones down below. I'm using medium pressure and just, straight coloring them in with the lightest green. And then I'm going to take the darkest green and add a bit of the darkest as it's coming out of the shadows, just leaving a slight bit of the lighter green on top. And then I'm just going to do the bottoms and just kind of make them two-toned. Just leaving the tips the lightest part. Now you can certainly do the darker first and then the lighter on top, but they're just little tiny spaces, so they don't have to be perfect. They can just be just trying to get a hint of the colors in there. Lightening up as you get closer to the top. Just like that. So then I'm going to take the olivine green. Well, I'm going to take the lightest green also. And I'm also going to do, and now I've switched to a fairly light pressure. And I'm doing the green base stems of each of the flowers. and then just putting a tiny bit of the light green on each of the leaves. I'm trying to move fairly quickly so that we can get through it, but not so quick that you don't get to see what I'm doing. I think I'm going to use the lightest green in this area as well of the, because I can always add a yellow green to that, or add a little yellow to it, gold. And I'm trying to think of what I want to do for the background. And it'll be something interesting, but as of this moment, I don't have an idea. And that's okay. You don't have to have a finished picture in your head, because like I have said before, sometimes when you don't have a plan, something that you do will, suggest itself. Okay, so now I've got the olive green, and I'm going to first do the stem, and then I'm just going to do the lowest part. Once again, these are tiny spaces, so I'm just making these a little two-toned. Just leaving the anything that's facing upward, I'm leaving light. So, that would be where the light is coming from, is up on the tops of the leaves. So that they are, just a little bit two-toned. They don't need to be, now this one would be probably dark because it's coming from, the shadow of the bloom. But then this one would be lighter on that edge. So as if the light is coming from that direction. And then just sort of blend it a little bit with the lightest green. Not aiming for perfection, just aim, because these are little, like once again, these are little tiny spaces. And trust me, nobody's going to get down and examine that you did each leaf perfectly. Or maybe they are, and if they do, then that's sort of their problem. Okay, so I'm just leaving, I did a little bit around the outside, and I'm leaving sort of the center highlighted a little bit on that one. I guess I don't need that darkest green. So I watched a cool video from Coloring with V. Oh, and then I watched something fun last night. From Dee Dee's channel, there are a lot of folks that are not necessarily colorists. They're more painters and journalists and all kinds of things. But they were doing apparently there is a new program or not program, but software that people are using to replace what used to be Google Hangouts. And basically what it allows folks to do is they can all stream at once. There's one chat, and you can see all these different windows of people, streaming, which is, I saw Belinda do something like that with Google Hangouts, but then YouTube said they weren't going to be doing Google Hangouts, or Google said they were, not going to do that anymore. And I don't remember what they called this, but people who were about to come in to the, it's like by invitation. The streamers coming in are by invitation, so that's all set up ahead of time. But they, so they're backstage, and then they come on, and I saw there were 4 of them last night. One of them was Connie, not Connie, Colleen, who is Scrap Chick. There was Kathy, although I don't know which Kathy. Beth, although I don't know which Beth. And Debbie Epps, who I also have seen come on live quite a bit. I'm a subscriber to her channel. And they were doing an exercise out of a book where they were painting a dolphin, and so they were all doing, they were all working from the same book. It's a drawing book, and it had all of these lessons on how to do it in all these different mediums. And Debbie Epps was just speeding through, and hers were done. She did one in watercolors, one in inks, and then one in watercolors, one in inks, and then she switched over and was doing just sort of her own thing. But everybody was coloring it so differently, using different techniques and different mediums and different colors, and it was just really fun to watch. And mostly the host, the person who sets it up can see the chat through on YouTube, but the others have to be running both the program and YouTube on a separate device to be able to see the chat. So primarily they ended up talking to each other, and then the people in the chat sort of fielded questions or anything like that through the host. And but it was a fun way to collaborate and it was have some fun. And before I even knew it, 2 hours had flown by. What will technology think of next? Okay, now I've got the actual yellow or green of the dark greens, the darkest of the dark greens. So I'm just adding in a little bit at the bases. Once again, not being fussy, just making these little guys two-toned. And I watched a couple of episodes of The Crazy Lamp Lady. I like to watch her because I learned something from her pretty much every time. She buys she buys useful and collectible tchotchkes from thrift stores and then resells them for a profit. And sometimes they're, you know, they're you know, they're not hugely valuable things, although there are some that, you know, certainly turn a fairly decent profit. Um, you know, statues that are made by particular companies, or glassware that is fairly rare or hard to replace, that kind of thing. But she's got a marvelous eye for the eclectic, the sort of what I consider the tasteful boho. Um, and I mean, so far there's really nothing that she's ever picked up that I didn't love, you know. And that is the criteria. She has to love it, and it has to be being offered at a price where she can make a profit. And, you know, she knows what a lot of stuff is worth. So, you know, if she can get $8 for a mug, then, and it only costs $1, well, then she's going to buy that mug because that's a pretty good return on investment. But if the mug costs $4 and she can only get $8 out of it, then that is not, you know, that's hardly worth the time and effort that it takes to pack it up in a box and send it out and, you know, do all of that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to watch her determine whether or not something is going to be profitable or not. And even if she really loves something, you know, I've seen her just leave it on the shelf because it costs more than she set for business criteria. And, you know, she hasn't been doing this that particularly long. She's also got a relics channel where she does metal detecting and things like that. But she does it with her best friend and her kids and her boyfriend, and, you know, everybody's in on the game. And she says her family calls it her superpower, being able to see value in things that other people overlook. I think I've watched that intro so many times that I've pretty much got it memorized. But you know, it's very cool. It's good entertainment. And I've been still following along with all the stuff that Alex is doing at Curiosity Inc. out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. This is the, whoops, I'm using the wrong color, of course. You see how it doesn't really matter. I wanted the olive green. So now I've got the olive green. Okay, just two-toning these, leaving that little bit of highlight on the top, whatever's facing up toward the top. Now I'm not done with these, but I just wanted to get, you know, these leaves in for you to show that. Okay, now I've got the middle pink, and I want to do, I want to come up with that, I think, just along these ridge lines, just so that these, so I use the, you know, the of these three, I used the darkest on the outside. Now I've got this one in my hand, which is the middle. And I'm just coming along the shading lines that I left. Leaving the light, but giving just a hint of the color. And choose this one. Once again, not aiming for perfection, just coloring in a bit, which, leaves a little more of, makes it a little bit darker, less stark white there in the centers. That's what I was after. I wanted to make it more look highlighted or shaded. Now, if I really wanted to, I could, take those whitest spots out and knock them back just by adding a tiny bit lightest shade of the pink. And that just, adds a little bit of richness to the white, and also satisfies the need if you are somebody who likes to, color up all of the space. You can do it without losing your highlights if you just choose your lightest shade and do it very lightly. It also helps to blend off any harsh edges that may have gotten left. Excuse me. And you won't ruin the effect. Now I am going to add a little bit of the darkest shade as well. But I'm going to take a quick coughing break. I'll be right back. All right, that is much better. Now, for this next part, you need a really sharp point on your pencil. And I am just going to darken up just a little tiny bit the far outside edges. Not a huge amount. But just a little bit. Once again, bumping that contrast. Yeah, I like it. And I can even do just a tad down here at the bottom. Not a lot. And I'm just barely touching it. Just adding a little bit in there at the bottom. And it really is all about the, you know, the little subtle bits and pieces. You know, I've talked about that before. It's the, you know, that it is the lights and the darks and how they play with each other that really make the difference. I am a, you know, truly a student of coloring, and when I see somebody who does a really good job, you know, like Sammy or well, a lot of people, but the two that come to mind are Sammy and Dee Dee, right, you know, right on top of my head, off the top of my head. They really do, you know, they study the contrasts and where the lights and the darks hit, and it's one of the, and Belinda does it as well. It's one of the things that really makes their coloring work extraordinary. V over at, you know, Coloring with V, and of course, you know, obviously, Lori at Color My World is just, you know, her work is just stunning. I love to watch good colorists work, and Chris Chang, you know, she does it. I like Chris Chang's videos, but I miss, you know, I like to have a voice that I can listen to as well. For some reason, I just like to have, you know, the voice, but of course you never hear her because I don't know if, I don't know anything about Chris Chang. I don't know if she speaks English or not. So I'll go around and do this to each of these petals. Just, you know, it's sort of a slow, laborious process of just bumping those. It's very zen, you know, to do it. But I think it really makes a difference to add a little bit of that in the very darkest shades. And you can also, you know, you don't have to do the little stroke like that. You can do a, you know, a stroke like this and just lighten it up very much on the out as you go. I just happen to like the, you know, the little, I like the little flicking stroke. But you can do it any way that floats your boat, or you can not do it at all. It just depends upon what you want in your own coloring work. And I don't think I did the, I don't think I did the middle pink. On that one or this one. So let me do those. So you can see what I'm doing with all of those, and that's going to be a bit time consuming. So let's move on to the butterfly. Now I am a believer that butterflies should be see, now I wish I'd added that in the original drawing, because I think that just makes the butterfly better, having his body segmented like that. Now I could draw, or I could do the butterfly body in a lot of colors, but I'm going to end up just doing him in black. And I am just going to draw a bit of a highlight on his back and just color him in black ink. And then I'm going to do the same thing with his middle section and the same thing on his head. Just leaving a little dot of white, you know, and like a highlight that makes him look like he's a little on the shiny side. And see, I knew that thing just comes in so handy. Just like that, just left a little white streak down his back. So that'll be the light hitting him. Whoops. Oh no. Disaster has struck. I put it in there wrong. Okay. And so you can always add stuff to the, you know, if you want to draw something in, if you've got the ability to do it, do it. I promise I won't mind. Okay, now, because I have a limited color palette, what color should I make the butterfly? And this is where I want to bring back this sort of tequila sunrise going on here, and make it so that it has that effect. So I want to start out using the pinks and also pulling the gold, and I'm going to sharpen this. Whoops. Another near disaster. I almost ended up with coffee all over the desk mat. Okay, so now I've got that good and sharp, and I'm going to start out, oops, and then of course the first thing that happens is the tip crumbles on me. So I'm going to start out with the darkest shade down here on the body. And do the other side. I do hope that this is in focus. I've been doing some close work all day long, and it is, for those of you who are wondering, I don't know exactly when this will post, but it is Saturday evening at about 7:30 right now, and I've been filming on and off since about, filming different things on and off since about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So my my focus is, the focus of my eyes is a little, wearing a little thin. Okay, so now I've got the middle shade of pink, and I'm just working a little more of that down. I'm working it out just a little bit further. Seems like it's an awful lot of pink, but we're going to make magic happen with it. And now I'm going to go for the lightest shade and bring it all the way out. To the end of the wing. And I'm going to actually erase a little bit what I've got going on here. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to. Maybe I will take it and do the same thing here. I started the, because I can fade that in. I was thinking about doing the outside frame around here in a gold, but I don't think I'm going to. Although, you never know, because what we're going to do next is the same thing that we did here. Over our lightest shade of pink, or did here, over the lightest shade of pink, I'm going to use this, which is, in my case, it's the 155, which is my the lightest of my browns, or mustards. So this is the one I call, this is spicy brown mustard, and this is honey mustard. Okay, so that's how I'm thinking of these in my head. So we're going to do the honey mustard here. And see how that goes from being too much pink to being a tequila sunrise. And that really sort of stands your butterfly out again from the pink flowers. Plus, it's just so pretty. And yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Now, what I may do is I may pull out that black ink pen again and do, whoops, that's not it. That's not it. User error, user error. Find the right pen, please. Okay. So I may do these actually in black. And I want to do these before I lay down the pencil, because I don't know if the ink will go through the oil-based pencil. But a micron will not go through any kind of paper. So I don't have to worry about it bleeding through, although there is a plastic sheet underneath here. At least I think there is. I usually put one down. Yeah, there is. So there's my plastic sheet to prevent whatever, especially if I'm using pencils, so that I prevent the pencils from making patterns on the drawing underneath. Okay. So now I could kind of like that black and white, because depending upon what I do with the background, I'm going to leave that black and white for right now. And see if it needs color once we've got a background down around it. Yeah, okay. So now I can deepen up those colors since I'm no longer experimenting. And so that is exactly what I'm going to do. Just add a little bit more depth of color. And call this butterfly beautiful. Because I'm thinking of using the mustard golds in the background. Excuse me. They cut my grass today. And I, of course, went outside and walked up to the 7-Eleven, so I walked through all the newly mown grass. Oh, I love that blend. I really love that peach to gold blend like that. That is just so pretty. Okay, so we have now done this side. I'm going to do the butterfly down here along the same theme, and probably do the well, let's do this because this will be the one part that is not the same for part 3. So let me, okay, let's do this. Let's color this in the dark pink. And maybe I'm going to want to bump the, I don't want to bump the contrast on that. So I'll do that by adding a little bit of that down under there. And then I can actually blend it out with this middle color. And who knows, actually maybe I'll blend it out with the gold. And have it kind of be that kind of a standout color. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. So now let me do this. Okay, and now the middle. And then just add a tinge of the gold on top to just give a hint of that pretty tequila sunrise color. So there's that one, and then this is the other darkest one. And then there's the middle one. And then there's the gold one. Yeah, like it. Like it. Okay, darkest. And this was the contrast pink, not the darkest pink, but the actual contrast pink that I have. So there's the contrast pink, the darkest pink, the middle pink, and then just a little bit of the gold over that middle pink, and then just sort of a zhuzh across the other. So that makes that nice and dark in the center. Then we can start with the back to the, the original 3 pinks, leaving the contrast there on the desk, and going with this dark here. And the middle. Just sort of feather that in. I'm not sure this gives me as much of a demarcation as I want between these two, but I have an idea of how to fix that. So this is the lightest of the pinks. Now this outer section will be much lighter, and then go in with the gold. Could be just too much of the same, although it is substantially lighter. So now I have in my hand, once again, no rule against mixing the colors. This is the contrast to the olive green. So this is actually chocolate brown or umber brown. And so let me do this. Let me add just a little bit of a dark color around that. And around this. And then I want to see what happens. Actually, that's not the color I want. I think I want, and I don't think that's the color I want either. I think I want the gold. Well, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So, I think I'm good. Okay, this is the middle pink. And this is the lightest pink. And even though it's going over that gold, It's still coming out sort of a light salmony color. That may be okay. Maybe I do want I'm going to try the darkest of the golds, which was or the darkest of the mustards, which is this 156. I tried the 154 and the 155, and I didn't like it. So now let me try the... I don't think I'll get that out of there. I think I'll just have to go over the top of it with this darker brown. Using kind of hard pressure. We'll know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna like that. All right, I'm gonna try it now by straight coloring this edge. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And then doing this one as well. And this one. In the brown. Because all butterflies don't have to be super highly colored. They can be beautiful and be muted shades as well. Okay, and then we'll go with this one. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So then, I want this to be lighter. This is the medium pink. So if I start with the medium pink, fading it down a little bit, go with the lighter pink, lightest pink, down to there, and then use the lightest mustard, the honey mustard, to once again add just a bit of the tequila sunrise finish. Yeah, and that leaves it actually pretty cool. Okay. Add a little bit more of the middle pink. To just sort of deepen those colors. Like that. And then take the darkest pink, not the contrast pink, but the darker pink, and do the little, maybe I'll use the, you know what, maybe I'll use the dark brown. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, actually that looks pretty good. Either that or I am going batty, which is entirely within the realm of the possible. Okay, so we're going to take that completely out of my hand and restore that and do this other side. So the medium pink, sort of feather out toward that, and then the lightest pink, yeah, kind of like that. Then a little of the yellow, or honey mustard. Back to my medium pink and my lightest pink. Okay, yeah, I'm liking it. I am liking it a lot. So that is what that looks like. I can hardly wait to see how this looks on camera when I review the video, because I may have just found a really cool way to to really sort of highlight without having to zoom in, zoom out, you know, mess around with the focus to do those close-up optical pictures and that kind of thing. So and in that case, then that'll be wonderful. That Melinda, thank Melinda very much for finding the link to that on, so that everybody on Amazon, or everybody can get one from Amazon. Okay, now wait, not that one, this one. This is the darkest of the regular pinks. I'm just using that very lightly. Okay, no, sorry, that was not the darkest of the regular pinks. That was the medium pink. That's what I wanted. Okay, in that case then, instead of very, very lightly, we're going with a medium pressure, feathering it out toward the edge. Then we're going to pick up our lightest pink, run it all the way out to the edge, and then add a little bit of a light layer of the gold to give the tequila sunrise. So even though these are both done with exactly the same colors, we can bump the contrast by using the brown and the and burying the pressure up. So that is so cool. Okay, yes, I like it. And we can always add stickles to it later if we want to, or some sort of a sparkly bit. Oh, now here's something you haven't seen. This is my brush pen. I'm not very good with it. Which is why I don't use it very often. But there we go. There's the other butterfly. Oh no. Something just fell off my desk. And I think that we need to add just a little bit of the darkest brown around these other two sections, just so they match up to the first one. Okay. That was my swatch book, by the way, hitting the floor. Okay, I like it. I like the second butterfly. I like the first butterfly. So now we're going to back out and look at it sort of overall. And whether or not you have chosen your own colors or are using the colors in the challenge, thank you so much for participating along with me and learning along with me as we go. Once again, I did not have, other than the colors chosen, I did not have a plan for this, and I think that we're doing okay. And hopefully you think so too. Please do leave comments. Let me know how you are progressing. I noticed that some people just sped right ahead and did their own thing and went ahead and put it in the group. And to those who did, thank you so very much. I love to see those. And don't forget, I did create a hashtag finally for this. It's called Color Along with CLAldridgeArt. And that way, it's completely recyclable as well. So if you do want to do that, just color along with CLAldridgeArt. Until we meet again in part 4 for the background, because I'm going to work on this while we're off camera. Don't forget about bumping your contrast, whatever colors you're using. And until we meet again, color something pretty. Bye, everybody, and thank you for being here today.